Shalom, this is Daniel Stern, and today is Monday, just after noon, and I wanted to give an update on last week's all of the circus and mess and mishaps involving hostages, hostage release, and all of that balagan. And first, I need to let you know that the previous episode, the one about Egypt, was recorded Wednesday around noon, and as a result, I made the decision not to update yet because there was already starting to be a mess and a lot of rumors, and I wanted to give you accurate information, as always. So, here is what happened with the hostage release, and I once again apologize for anyone who was waiting to get solid information on what happened. On February 20th, there was supposed to be the return of 4 corpses, which included the Bibas family, Ariel, Kfir, and Shiri Bibas, along with one more corpse. But what happened was that accidentally or not, the corpse of Shiri Bibas was not returned in the coffin, but rather an unidentified woman instead. And consequently, there was outrage. And of course, as we've seen for many weeks already, the Hamas terrorists, inhuman terrorists, have turned the hostage release into a circus of blood and death, which is they see as a festival, they have children participate in and being joyous about, and it's disgusting and barbaric. And this time as well, on February 20th, they made a whole big event, a big show, a carnival of returning 4 corpses in coffins. I want to remind you that one of the children was only 10 months old when he was murdered, and the other was only 4 years old, and they are not the only children that were kidnapped or killed, but those were 2 that were well known. And as opposed to the Hamas claims, they were not killed by Israeli bombardments of the area, but rather they were strangled to death, and then in order to cover it up, their skulls and bodies were smashed. They were not even shot. They were strangled by hand. And this is horrible, horrible, inhuman, but it is what we're dealing with. And I saw a post recently on Facebook where someone said, even during World War II, even in Nazi Germany, there were Germans who saved the lives of Jews. And of course that was true all throughout Europe. But here, not one Gazan saved the life of a Jew. So just let that sink in for a moment. But going back to the follow-up, between February 21st and 22nd, the remains of Shiri Bibas were returned to Israel. And following that, on Saturday, 6 live hostages were also returned to Israel, once again with a ceremony, a circus of blood and death about their returns, with one notable exception. One of the hostages, they did not participate in their circus, and that was the Muslim hostage, Hisham, who has been there for nearly a decade. He's been a hostage in Gaza. And according to Hamas, they did it out of respect for him. So, first of all, that shows that these ceremonies of blood are done to show lack of respect for the hostages. And second of all, if that is how they show respect to Muslims who share the same faith as they do, 10 years hostage, he looked terrible when he came out, he was not talking, not crying, no emotional reaction whatsoever. Just think if that's what they do to their Muslim brothers, just think what they want to do to the rest of the world. And in addition, during the macabre ceremony, they actually brought 2 more hostages to view the ceremony. And during the ceremony, they forced, and as he later said once he was safe back in Israel, they forced one of the hostages to kiss his captors, to show fake affection to his captors. So, on that Saturday, 6 hostages were returned. 2 of them are hostages that have been in the Gaza Strip for nearly a decade. One is an Ethiopian Jew who, according to the reports at the time, crossed the border into Gaza accidentally due to his own mental challenges, and the other was the aforementioned Muslim, and the other 4 were hostages taken on October 7th. Now, that is what happened over this last week, this horrible, horrible circus of blood, but I remind you that this is just a continuation of the previous ceremonies of release, where they would give the soldiers and civilians released photographs of them in prison and other memorabilia. It is just disgusting what these inhuman barbarians are doing. But they did arrive home, and that is the most important part. And you, the viewers, and you, the world, can see what we're dealing with here. The next stage is the big question. What will happen? Will there be a part 2? Will Israel remove all its soldiers from the Gaza Strip and the Philadelphia corridor? Will the war end? Will all the hostages be released in one go, as the Hamas have claimed that they're willing to do in order to show seriousness? The answer is it's still unknown. It's still in debate. And as you know, I personally do not approve of the price that Israel is paying. And we can see this price already taking effect. Just a few days ago, there was an attempt to do a massive, multi-pronged attack on Israeli public transportation. Multiple bombs were located in multiple buses and were neutralized. Apparently, the people who set the bombs accidentally set them for 9 p.m. instead of 9 a.m. So when some of the bombs went off, and they did, then they went off and did not cause any damage, any casualties. Obviously they caused damage, but no casualties, thank God. But this is just the tip of the iceberg as to what will come as a result of these recent releases of terrorists. As statistics show that 80% of released terrorists go back to terrorist activities, and we've just released hundreds of terrorists. So please pray for Israel, pray for the civilians of Israel who will now be at risk and endangered by the released terrorists. And of course, pray for wisdom for the government, protection on the soldiers, and for the hostages to be as well as can be expected and released, whether by force or by negotiation, as soon as possible. And if you like this video, if you appreciate receiving this, then please write a comment below, share it, click subscribe, and everything else. God bless you, and shalom.